What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Lead From Here podcast. Today we're going to talk about chaos, how to respond to chaos, and where does chaos live in the life cycle of a business, in a team, and in a career. And I wanted to bring this up because earlier this week we talked about disconnecting and how that chaos can kind of build. And chaos is a reality. Chaos, it's inevitable. If you have a company that has any kind of success, you're going to have chaos. And it's a different kind of success. If your company finds failure and is going under, that's a different kind of chaos. But we're going to focus on the successful teams for now, and we can revisit the bankrupting companies another time, maybe. But ultimately, a successful company is going to have tremendous amounts of chaos in bursts and sometimes over long periods. So as a leader, how do you respond to that? One, and probably the most important, is shield your team as best as possible. You're not always going to be able to do that because sometimes there's chaos within the team dealing with chaos outside the team. So it's inevitable that it will happen. So one is shield your team from it as much as you possibly can. Take the brunt of it, which is why you need to disconnect. Watch the video in the link last episode. If you are disconnecting well and you're shielding the team, you've already done 90% of the work. Like honestly, if you're disconnecting, you're handling as much chaos as possible, keeping it away from the team as much as possible, disconnecting so you can reset, refresh, come back with a fresh perspective, you're 90% of the way there. Like you've done 90% of the work. The next 10% is sadly the hardest. And that is understanding where it's coming from, understanding if there's actually value in it, and understanding how to remove it. Because we'll talk about this next week, but chaos is not a way of life. That's not like, I've been in teams where it's just like, this is just who we are. It's not. It shouldn't be. Because one, it's not sustainable. Two, it's not a healthy work environment. And three, it's not where your people are the most effective. It may feel like it because they get a lot of shit done in a short amount of time, but it's not as quality as it could be. It's not as thoughtful as it could be. And it's probably not as scalable as it could be. So there's a lot of different reasons that chaos is unhealthy. So understanding where the chaos is coming from allows you to start looking at the symptoms to understand, okay, what's the root cause of this? Is it lack of process? Is it a toxic customer? Is it a toxic leader? Is it a lack of strategic vision? Is it a combination of all those things? Like it could be a lot of different things. So it's up to you to understand like what part of that funnel, product funnel, or work funnel, or customer situation, what part of that is controllable to you. If you can figure that out, then you can say, okay, what do we need to put in place? Is it a process? Do I need to say like, listen, all escalations need to follow this specific process so we know ultimately that it's follow this process, we have everything in place, which when it gets to the team means it's just a normal thing. Whatever it is, a ticket or an escalation or an issue, when the team gets it and they can start action on whatever it is, it's already been dealt with. So it's just like a normal day for them. It's not chaos. It's not like, it doesn't feel like a fire. It's been managed. It's been managed through the process that you created. And that's the key, right? Is you as the leader have to really find a way to whittle that chaos down to when it gets to the team, it's nothing. It's as little nothing as it can possibly be. Again, it will happen. When it happens in the team, this is where it gets a little more complicated. And this is where that 10% really starts to level up in complexity, is that sometimes dealing with so much chaos that keeps coming into the team can create chaos amongst the team. So that can be frustration in between people that can't maybe keep up, or frustration with the way it's being with you, the way you're leading the team. You're bringing too much chaos. You're not shielding enough chaos. It could be other members of the team are feeling like, hey, I'm picking up more during chaos than the other people. It just brings a lot of contention. And so that's why it's not a way of life. And if it feels like it's becoming a way of life, it's on you to really look at the situation and understand, where can I stop the bleeding on this chaos? And sometimes it's going to be difficult conversations with your leader, your leader's leader, and your peer's leader, and pulling together a group of executives to say, this isn't working, and I'm seeing my team's throughput drop because of it. So I recommend, and this is key, you need to go into that with a recommendation. You can't spin up that meeting and be like, I don't know what to do. You guys need to help. Like, Some companies you might be able to get away with it, but I wouldn't, because you'll lose respect because you just kind of threw out a problem. Ultimately, you need to come up with a solution. And usually it's going to be some kind of a process or a list of can't do's. Like, hey, you cannot take an issue and just hand it directly to the team. Like, you need to verify that with me to make sure it's okay. You need to make sure that whatever issue it is, if it keeps happening, we need to stop for a minute and understand, is there something we can do within the team, pause the escalations, make a very concerted effort on, hey, can we do this to make these go away? And understand how that impacts the customer longer term. In the short term, how does that impact us as a team in the short term versus long term? How does it impact our ability to make sales in the short term and long term? And understand all the different aspects of that. This job is not easy. I will say that 100,000 times on this channel before it's all said and done. This job as a leader is not easy, but that's your job. So if you're a leader, it's time to step up. It's time to really understand the flow from top to your team. So however it's coming in, understand it, figure it out, ask your boss, ask your peer, ask your peer's boss, ask your boss's boss, and start understanding why the business runs the way it does. And then start finding ways to build processes around that, or set up, like I said, blockers of like, this is just, we don't operate this way. It's ineffective, it lacks quality, it slows us down, all the things that could come about it. If you give that information to executives and to your boss's boss and your bosses and your peers, if you give all that information out, they can understand like, oh shit, we're actually hurting the teams or hurting our ability to deliver the things that we need to do outside these escalations. We need to stop doing this, or we need to find a better way to do it. Without doing that, they're just going to keep letting that chaos live. And that's not a way of life. We'll talk about why it's not a way of life again another week, but this is how you respond to chaos. Find solutions to mitigate it over the long term, because if you don't, your team will suffer. Hope this is helpful. If you want any more information or want to dive more into it, let me know. You can create more episodes. Just hit me up, jason@leadfromhere.co, or any of the social media channels, DM me. If you like what you hear, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Take care, everybody.